Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be talking about why it's important to actually get started on doing things rather than just reading about them or acquiring a general knowledge without actually doing anything. The whole premise or idea behind this video is the fact that experience is worth more than knowledge. Let's just take that apart. Usually, when something's worth more, it either requires more energy or more effort to construct. When we look at the toughest part of any task, usually the most difficult thing is just starting it. A lot of mental effort to get started on something that you don't specifically need for your survival. It's all from evolution. We want to be as lazy as possible in order to conserve maximum amount of energy we possibly can. We haven't had a lot of time to evolve from that, which means that we're still pretty similar. I'll bring an example in just to make things more simple. Imagine that you're trying to start a new business, but you already have a job and right now your life is going fine. It might not be going perfectly, but you're surviving. That's where a lot of people get stumped. They want to start a task or create something new, and they don't really know how to get rid of that mental block. The problem is that survival is all your brain is hardwired to do, above and beyond, for example, creating the business you really want to or getting good at something is a secondary task. While that task might help you out in some ways, it's one that's not essential to your survivability. And for that reason, your brain doesn't want to put in the effort, so it'll basically stop you from continuing on with that task. However, if we placed ourselves in a different scenario where you are in absolute need of money, nobody's hiring, so you have no other way of making money other than creating your own business. In that case, you'll feel a lot of pressure to perform, and that means that your brain is linking that business with your survivability. It's basically telling you that if you don't make this business, you're going to die. And with that mindset, you're going to do everything you can to make sure that this business is a success. That pressure that you feel, while it is really uncomfortable, it drives you to become a better version of yourself and create things that will be successful. It's interesting how it ties to today's topic of why it's better to actually do things rather than to just learn about them. Because a lot of times when people want to get started on something, what they really end up doing is reading a lot about their interest. So that might involve going online and doing a whole bunch of research. But the problem is that they never actually get the important work done. While research and a general knowledge of your interest is definitely important, it isn't going to do anything for you other than make you more knowledgeable. The real goal is to actually get started on your task. And this is actually really important to understand because some people might seem really smart on the outside. They might know a lot about certain things. They've never actually done anything with their knowledge. They might be able to tell you about something, but the true value comes in actually applying that knowledge and doing something with it in life. If they don't know how to do that, then all of that knowledge is basically useless. It can really only be used to teach other people, and even then, I think that it's better to actually learn from doing rather than learn from listening. Now that we know about this roadblock, let's try to figure out how to get across it. The way I'd suggest doing it is by just jumping straight into the deep end. To give a brief overview of this method, what it involves is putting a whole bunch of pressure on yourself so that you perform. It's really uncomfortable, but I think that to create great things, you aren't really able to be comfortable. If you want to create things that'll change the world, you can't just do it by sitting comfortably in your chair. So let's talk about ways to put pressure on yourself. As usual, let's start with some examples just to make things easier to understand. Going back to the example of starting a business, ways that you can apply pressure on yourself is to make certain commitments to people. For example, first make your business, and with that business, you can start going over, depending on what your business is, but you can make promises to other businesses, sign contracts that will basically force you to get work done. It could be delivering 10 pieces of your product by a certain date. And this way, you'll be putting a whole bunch of pressure on yourself because if you don't fulfill your end of the deal, you will have consequences fall upon you that are probably not very desirable. You might end up paying a huge fee. And now with that pressure, you don't want to be subject to those consequences. So you'll do everything in your power to avoid them. And the way you avoid them is by fulfilling your deal, which involves running your business. You'll end up doing work that will help you and your business rather than just reading about certain things and researching certain things and just doing things that are neither here or there. Of course, do your due diligence, but don't get stuck up in it. Moving over to another example, let's say you want to get really good at a sport or certain craft. One thing you could do to put a whole bunch of pressure on yourself is find a trainer or school that's really expensive and send them a large payment. That way, your mind will link not going with a huge loss of money. You'll be motivated to go because you don't want that large sum of money to be wasted. That pressure will actually force you to go, and you'll be getting good training and you'll likely get pretty good at whatever you're trying to do. And I'll bring in one last example. Let's say that you're trying to make new friends. You just moved into a new city and you don't know anybody. How do you put pressure on yourself in that situation? What you can do is, I've said this before in a bunch of other videos, but you can sign up for some random groups that meet up and go to them alone. So you're not going to be going with a friend or anything. Just go alone. That way, when you're in that meetup group, you'll feel more pressure to interact with and socialize with those other people because you don't want to be seen just standing alone doing nothing. Your mind will force you to start talking to other people because you don't want to look like you're having a bad time. You'll actually be improving your socialization skills and you'll be meeting new people in the process, making more friends. To recap, the general idea is to do something that puts a whole bunch of pressure on yourself. Make sure it's the right type of pressure because you don't want to be giving yourself depression for no reason. Also, make sure that you can handle that pressure because too much pressure is also not a good thing. You can start yourself off with smaller tasks that are less pressurizing and build your way up. Make sure that the pressure is enough for you to actually perform. A few common ways to put pressure on yourself is to make commitments that have consequences if you don't fulfill them. You can be creative with it, but that's the general idea. By doing that, you will ensure that you are doing the right amount of work. Research and reading is obviously important, but it's not the only thing that you should be focused on. You should be more focused on the task that you're interested in. Unfortunately, there's no comfortable way to get around this. It's the way that your body was designed biologically. We don't like to do things that require extra energy, so what we need to do is just apply some sort of constraint that forces us to work. Alright, well, it was good talking to you guys. I hope you learned something new, and I'll see you in another video.